And Diane, did you actually find the link?
No, Tom is still in the office and he sent me a quick link.
Okay, good.
All right, we are live.
So it was great. Yeah.
Okay. And just on that thought, you had changed your email address. So Tom, you may want to check to make sure you've got the right email address for Diane.
I have two. I have a Gmail and then I have a Yahoo.
Good.
And this one is on Gmail. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Tom, you have roll?
I do. I take and roll.
Okay. I don't see Steve. Has anybody heard from him?
He's on.
Okay.
He's on via phone, I think. I just.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's muted, but now he's there.
I'm here.
Okay, good.
Hey, Steve.
Okay. Have we received any communication from Deep, Eversource, or the Department of Transportation? John, Pete, or Steve? Anything we have to worry about?
We haven't received anything. We had that one meeting and we didn't amount to anything. And we haven't heard anything from them after.
I think you guys must have scared them away.
Oh. Well, we did hear from Eversource. John and Pete wrote a joint letter to Eversource asking or inviting someone to participate in the last Harbor Management Commission meeting and to provide a status report on their project. And the person who responded declined to attend the meeting and said they continue to work on the proposed project across the harbor with the transmission lines, and they're not ready yet to present or move or submit an application yet. So we heard from them, but we didn't get any additional information.
Gotcha. Okay, Tom, anything new from the Department of Health?
No, Joe. Nothing new to report.
And Rick Reardon has sent emails to us, and I think I forwarded one of them to you guys. And he's still on this kick about PCBs and pollution in the harbor. And Dick, I think you went looking for the so-called pollution that Diane Chapman alerted me to, and then I told you about it. Everybody I talked to had not seen it. So, Dick, did you see anything?
No, same here.
Okay.
There's been a reddish tint to the harbor from time to time, but it's a dinoflagellate. Looks much like a diatom, except it moves. Kind of reddish color, but that's not particularly harmful.
No, and we've had them in the past too.
Is this down oyster shell we're talking about?
What I was told was it was in the channel.
Channels, right.
Okay.
And that was as specific as it got.
All right.
And other than that, I know when I was at the aquarium, we would see, quote, a red tide. And it was a dinoflagellate, but not the kind of dinoflagellate that causes the...
We also found it in Stamford Harbor and Saugatuck. So I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Correct.
Hey, but Dick or Joe, specifically, what is it though?
It's a dinoflagellate.
Hey, help me out there, Dick. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
It's a small marine organism. Looks like a dinoflagellate. It looks like a diatom, except this one has some movement to it.
So you're saying it's indigenous to there? It's a natural substance?
It's in a bloom phase. In other words, the cells are replicating and giving that color to the water.
So it's a plant, Dick? It's a plant, not an animal.
A dinoflagellate is an interesting cross between a plant and possibly an animal. That theory has always been out.
It's a protist, which means it's single-celled. Some dinoflagellates do have the ability to photosynthesize. Most of them do not. They have a flagella, which means they can move, which makes them, quote, like an animal. hence the name dinoflagellate.
Interesting, interesting. But the bottom line, it's not a chemical. That's when you first hear something
No.
red, you think it's a chemical.
No, but some of
Good.
them can release toxins.
Wow, interesting.
And it's just a matter of whether we have the good dinoflagellates or the bad ones.
Oh,
Right.
interesting. Good.
And
Thank
if we
you.
have the bad ones, you would see dead fish all over the place.
Wow. Okay.
And
Thanks.
density is important too.
Miss Joe, I wanted to, I emailed Rick, Rick also had emailed me, which he's done over the years. I said, Rick, you're saying there's this material in the harbor, but where? Is it in the East Harbor? Where is it near? And I never heard back from him. So
I have a real problem with this guy because he never identifies anything. He's all
Right.
talk.
right, so we have to be, you know, I asked him for more specifics and he would appreciate that, but he never got back to me. So
That's right.
yeah, we don't want to.
He was going to bring me a whole bunch of telling letters from the DEP and he never showed up.
So,
So it's
Joe,
all-
if he doesn't engage us, let's just not respond to him.
Well, the unique thing about this is a lot of his information is historical.
Yes.
And I checked with Deep. I sent it to Chris Malik, and Chris Malik sent it around the department, and they have history of it, but according to them, they were under the impression the city had taken care of it, and therefore it should not be a problem anymore. And he recommended, if anybody thought it was a problem, to hire a consultant and have the consultant look into it. We know historically that there was PCBs in the harbor, and they know that from when they did sampling years ago for doing the dredging. But it is historical. And what we know from riverine situations with the Housatonic River, the PCBs don't hurt anything if they stay buried.
And
And
that's
it's
where
when
they
you
are.
dig them up that they
Gotcha.
create a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only thing we have to do is watch it with the bridge. And the local health department cannot test for it. Department of Aquaculture can test for it. And they do have other labs in the state that can test for it. So we've tried to follow up on it. But unfortunately or unfortunately, if we don't have information more specific, we're at a loss.
Gotcha.
I don't think we should give this guy any airtime.
Well, technically, I have to.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
Because-
document it, Joe, but Dick's right. I wouldn't give him an airtime. I mean, document it, say, yes, we're looking into it, and go, and leave it at that.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
That's
fine,
that's what we have been doing.
fine.
Diane's not here, so we won't get an update on the group stam on the silver mine.
Oh, Louise, you mean
Yeah, I
Louise?
got it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Joe, do you want me to report?
Sure, if you were
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the meeting was on Tuesday, and Louise did a very nice job. The second taxing district made their presentation. I think the gentleman who represents the second taxing district, his name is Murphy.
The first taxing district.
First taxing district. Is his name Murphy? I
Frank
forget.
Murphy, Attorney Frank Murphy.
Yeah, and he spoke for about 25 minutes. He went through the history of the process and why they're at where they are now. I guess the bottom line is they feel that they need to protect the integrity of the dam because of the 100-year flood or whatever. And they're also indicating that they're responding to federal mandates to do so. And then the representatives from the department, from DEEP, also spoke, and I believe they're engineers. And basically, they were going through the process of they've done this, they've done that, they've done that, they've done that. And we're challenging their assessment of all the T's that have been crossed and the I's have been dotted. And we've pointed out some situations we believe was not consistent in what they were saying that they've already done. So the bottom line is I think they were supportive of what we've asked them to do, to take another look at it. So we're trying to protect the surrounding areas, so trees and shrubs and all of the above are not just taken down because they say they need to be taken down. So there was another meeting, I believe, today, and we have another follow-up. I believe it's next week. So the bottom line is that I think that DEEP is looking at some of our objections, and I think we'll go from there. All we wanted to do is ask them to take a look at their plans because we felt they were a little bit too much for what they need to do to make the reservoir maintain its integrity.
Now, the one thing they haven't done is deepen the reservoir, which in the position they're in right now with 3 wells that are contaminated, you would hope they would want to store more water. And I can understand raising the dam if they were going to use that to actually store water, but they're not, because the actual dam, the outflow, is not going to be raised at all. So there won't be any increased storage. You're just strengthening the dam, which the feds may require. I know Ridgefield is going through that. So there's a tendency for us to think that everything is for water storage. This may not be. It may actually be because they have questioned the integrity of the dam.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Jeff, you had a question.
Yeah, to Jim. Jim, this was a DEEP public hearing?
Correct.
Not a public meeting, a public hearing.
Jeff, you got to bear with me on the semantics here. I'm not sure. Diane probably
I know.
knows.
Yeah, I was there as well. I've gone through these kinds of things. It was actual public hearing, Jeff, where if anyone wanted to be sworn in as a expert witness, they could have done so online. So it was it wasn't just a informal meeting.
Well, that's my question then, that this is sort of a new experience for DEEP, having the public hearings online or virtually like this. So did everyone who first of all, how many people participated, and was everyone given an opportunity to speak?
There was always over 70 people in attendance. And yes, people were offered the opportunity to speak.
And then did they hold what they call status conference before it and afterwards with the parties who petitioned for the hearing?
I know that we did speak to them. I know their staff was prepared to speak. They were all prepared to speak as well as we were. I don't know the logistics of how those meetings were conducted, Jeff, but everybody was aware of it and prepared.
Okay. Now, was this held because the Norwalk River Watershed Association submitted a petition for the hearing?
Yes. We, along with the New Canaan Land Trust, took issue with the plans, and we were officially an intervener.
Yes, that requires you to have to follow a legal process to be
correct.
An intervener.
Correct.
Did you do that? Did you hire your own attorney to file the papers and do that?
Yes.
All right. All right. Now, and then the other question, I'm sorry to talk too much here. A month ago, we discussed this upcoming hearing and how this seemed to be a topic that would be well suited for the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative to be involved with. And I think at that time, someone was going to follow up on that and see if it was possible to have the Watershed Initiative was meant to be sort of I guess a loose-knit governmental entity with representatives of all the towns that would have, the ability to comment on projects affecting the watershed with respect to the watershed plan. And our
Understood.
concern was that entity doesn't seem to exist anymore, no matter what
Yeah,
we
I think,
point.
yeah, I guess,
Where is it?
Diane, I don't want to jump ahead, but you're right, Jeff. At no point in time during the meeting was the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative discussed.
You know, I think that's still, that was one of our priorities of the Harbor Management Commission at the beginning of this year, or actually last year, even before
Correct.
the virus, and of this committee to try to reestablish the watershed initiative. And
Well,
there
Diane,
was
you made mention, Diane, about Alex. Are you bringing something to that effect up?
Well, why don't we hold off, if you will, Jeff, when we get to the Alexis Carachetti discussion on the agenda, then I would suggest we talk more about that.
Good.
All right.
But you're
Well,
right, you're absolutely right.
Who's got the
that's good.
leadership role?
What
Annette.
is that?
Who's
What'd
got
you
the
say, Dick?
leadership role?
Well, there isn't, the watershed initiative was developed in large part through the efforts of the City of Norwalk and the Harbor Management Commission, because the concern was that what happens upstream in the watershed affects the shellfish beds in Norwalk and downstream in the harbor. So the co-chairs had been, well, the former, I guess, the co-chair or chair was the Conservation Environmental Director in Wilton, and then she moved on, and then so I don't know who the leadership would be right now.
That's a key question.
Sure, but that a lot of effort went into that, and I don't see why we. I'm sorry to
Yes.
belabor the point. I'll stop.
The person on the state level was Chris Sullivan. And in all honesty, I'm having a difficult time getting emails out. Optimum Online just on occasion lets them out and sometimes doesn't. I did email him. However, I don't know if he got it. I should follow up with a phone call, and I will do that. Alexis was the one for the City of Norwalk that was the vice chair or whatever you want to call it. So I'm dying for Diane's information on what's going on there.
But this is very good work by the Norwalk River Watershed Association to
Yes.
advance this interest and to take the up the, I don't want to say take up the slack, but to be involved in this watershed-wide issue.
You're spearheading it very nicely.
Quite commendable. Yes.
Yes.
Well, we're going to be asking for donations, guys. This lawyer is killing us.
Oh.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Wastewater treatment plant. Diane?
Okay, I'm trying to load up the NIPD's permit. So as I'm talking to you, I will try to find it again on my tablet. The reason I brought this up is I get, as many of you do or you should, I got a notification on the city website, but also through the state of Connecticut. I get DEEP notifications, I'm sure Jeff does all the time, about a permit renewal. And I sent a link to you all, I hope you got it yesterday. And in it, there is a whole list. The DEEP usually will opt to renew a permit that's been long time established. In this case, though, if you noticed on the cover page, it stated about 10 or 11, and this is what I'm trying to find out. I have it listed here, that there's certain subsections, especially I2, I3, J1, J6, 8, 9, C, then they have J10C. They have especially underscoring that their notifications must take place to DEEP. So I tried to look up online, and again, Jeff, maybe you could help me with this, or Dick Harris or others, maybe Tom Closter, that it seems like for some reason the DEEP either isn't getting notification on a regular basis, or they just are now maybe telling all the water pollution control plants that they want to have a new sort of notification. I do know that there was up for discussion by the legislature. It's called a sewer spill right to know bill. I don't know if it was passed last session or if it's going to be put up for this coming session in February, related to telling the public whenever there's a spill, not just when it's a certain kind of spill. The reason I brought it up is I wanted to know if we, number one, should and if we could make comment by the deadline to the DEEP. I'm not suggesting that we ask for a public hearing, but because that could be done even from someone in the public, we cannot because we own the water pollution control plant. But to my knowledge, no one has asked for a public hearing yet on this renewal. When many years ago, when I was much younger, this would have been the time when John Frank and I were after the water pollution control plant about odors emanating from the sludge control building, that there were odors and a lot of spills. This happened many, many years ago. So we're talking at least, I think it was when Dick Mosher was mayor, so it would have been at least 7, 8 years ago. And we did, and I successfully had signatures, and we successfully had the state come down and we had a hearing on the permit because we wanted to make sure better and more transparency as far as that goes. To my knowledge, there haven't been a lot of issues. They still have the odor issue out of the sludge control building, which means every time they want to pick up the dewatered sludge, they open up the garage door and poof, all the odors come out into the neighborhood. I personally have talked with the mayor and others. That is a economic development problem as well as an asthma trigger, and it is a health issue. But I haven't had time and the bandwidth to take that up again. I do know they're planning to do something about it. Suez is now, of course, in charge of the wastewater treatment plant. Many of you know some of the people that work there. Anyway, I just wanted to put it up for discussion because we can also praise them. We can praise them as well as criticize them. We could at least I think it would be a good idea that we said something in general to let this DEEP know that we are alive as a water quality committee and the times we do work with the sewage treatment plant, you know, to help find leaks, and that's a good thing. But there might be some things that we would like to emphasize as far as improvements or conditions of the permit. That is wholly fair for us to make suggestions. So with that, I'll stop talking and the rest of you, please discuss.
Any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say that Save the Sound showed up at a meeting that I attended over at the sewage treatment plant. And they were there to break chops about the number of bypasses, et cetera, that the plant was experiencing over time. The plant has to report all those. So of course they had the records right in their hand. I was there, Sarah Crosby was there, and we explained in detail all the work the plant has done in conjunction with our efforts to overhaul the pipeline system. And it's been extensive. It's very many times that they've gone out and repaired stuff that we found or they found. There's a big record in place. That was all explained to Save the Sound, who had 2 lawyers and Bill Lucy there. And the upshot of the meeting was, well, that's fine, guys, but we still think the enforcement is needed here. What that means is they're going to bring a suit against Norwalk Sewage Treatment Plant. They've already sued the town of Danbury. Danbury didn't even return their calls, so they got $100,000 on that one. So this is a little game to swell their coffers. They just go around plant to plant and find out who isn't meeting a criteria and bring the axe down. So I just thought you guys ought to be aware of that. It hasn't resolved into a suit yet, but they certainly were indicating that they're going to do that.
When did this happen, Dick, that they indicated they were going to do this?
It was about a month and a half ago. I was at the meeting. I know this isn't rumor. They asked me to attend.
And what were the grounds of the suit?
Oh, they're generally that the plant is exceeding the number of bypasses that is in the permit. The DEP is not after them for this, by the way. I think the overall view is that the plant is doing everything they can to bring this under control. There are some things that are outside their control. An aging sewage treatment plant, not plant, collection system that needs continual repair and replacement, but they're doing what they can.
The permit that's out to notice is a renewal of the existing permit. So they're not proposing to discharge more than they do. And it says that the design capacity is 18 million gallons a day.
That's correct.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know exactly what that means, but it also says that Ralph Kolb is the contact person.
And that's
So
also,
I guess if we had thought about this, we might have invited Ralph to come to the
I
meeting.
think that would be a perfect thing to do.
But the comment period on this is up on October 8th. So there's not much
Yeah.
time to provide comments. I guess one well, I mean, again, I'm just talking without thinking a lot, but thinking about all the new development that's being proposed in Norwalk and the proposed change in the zoning regulations that would increase, for example, in the Upper Harbor, the density of residential development in some places. Is this, in planning ahead, is this design capacity adequate to meet the demand for wastewater treatment that would be perhaps generated by the new development that's also being promoted or anticipated?
To me, that it is, that they have capacity to meet what's out there right now.
How do you know that?
But not later.
Pardon me?
How do you know that? I mean, how do you?
They
Was
told
this?
me, I don't know, other than what they tell me.
Well, Jeff, I think that would be a wonderful, that shows that we're interested. All of the, I've attended some, like Glover Avenue, that all those mega apartment buildings, the zoning commissioners and the staff ask the applicant, do you have the capacity in our sewage treatment system? And of course, they always seem to say yes, but at least throwing it out there, that our water quality committee wants to make sure that the capacity for the next 10 years, 20 years, or at least 10 years, which is the Plan of Conservation and Development's extension, is adequate. That would be a good thing, I think, to write. It's not accusing anybody of anything, but it's letting...
just asking for information.
Yeah. That's right, that's right.
I would
That would be
suggest
good.
more than that. I would suggest we send a committee over and talk to Ralph, or have Ralph come to this meeting. Let's not get into a letter writing thing. Let's hear it directly from them.
Dick, I don't disagree with you, but I think Diane's point is at least document. I think it's good to put something in writing.
Well, you're not going to probably have a committee meeting with Ralph before October 8th.
No.
So yes, it's not a bad idea to talk with him and understand this better, but if you don't send
Just one that either October 1st or October 8th, they've invited the Town Management Commission to come down and take a tour of the plant.
what's the Town Management Commission?
I mean, the town council.
Oh, all right.
City
the
council, common council.
Common council, right.
Dick,
Well,
that might be an outflow from the letter I sent to the Common Council, raising concerns about water consumption and then sewage treatment. And the council, two of the council people did respond to me saying, thanks for the letter. We hadn't even considered this. So this could be why they're meeting with them. And then again, it might be another reason.
The Common Council has a lot of new members and they traditionally go on a tour every year, but I'm sure that Joe's letter also probably spurred them on to make sure they had it sooner rather than later. So.
Lisa Shanahan's been a mover in this too,
Right.
Good.
from Rowayton.
Right. So anyway, I wanted to know, Mr. Chairman, if keeping Dick's comments and others in mind, I know it's an October 8th. I mean, we can individually send in all of our comments should we want, but I know the Shellfish Commission's meeting right after this.
Yeah.
And I just think it's good for the state to know that we are, you know, we want to work in concert with the Water Pollution Control Plant. We've had very good relationships with them. We could say that especially about, but we want to make sure that the line capacity is going to meet the several thousand anticipated apartments that are not online yet. something like that, you know, make it kind of neutral, but our job is to oversee this, not to just go along with it.
Well, that's a good point that it could be brought up at the Shellfish Commission meeting next for a formal letter from the Shellfish Commission inquiring about the capacity of the plant and anticipated future demand for use of the plant, and whether the design capacity now is adequate to meet the anticipated future development. So something like that, and just seeking information.
And Joe, can we do the same, Joe?
Yes.
Fine,
But
good.
I was going to ask Tom a question that might be a little bit more pointed. Do you have any idea, with the planned development we have now, what the population increase in Norwalk could be?
No, Joe, I don't have that information.
Because when we were at that one meeting in City Hall, I counted at least 2,000 units that were going up. And even if it's only single occupancy, that's 2,000 people more. If it's multiple, and a lot of these developments had 2 and 3 bedroom occupancy, we could have as many as 8,000 to 10,000 people more in Norwalk. That's a significant bump in water consumption and also sewage that would go out. So, you know, I don't know what the final count is. And I sent a letter to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I have had no response from them. Maybe we have to push a little harder. Okay.
I do have one last thing that I think we should add, or I suggest the Shellfish Commission adds, and I'd be happy to help with some wordsmithing after the meeting. I cannot make the Shellfish Committee, but here's the thing: is there's not enough discussion about climate change. And of course, our Suez is very equipped to address this, as is our own city. But of course, that plant will be inundated with the projections, so that we look forward, some kind of wordsmithing. Joff's really good at this, to talk about. We want to make also sure that we can adequately address the upcoming issues of climate change, not only with sea level rise, but also rainwater inundation with, we could call it extreme weather, because that's when they have their problems of bypass. And if you noticed, item K on the NIPD's permit has to do with bypass notifications that the state of Connecticut is especially highlighting on the cover sheet. Monitoring is section J. And then I is facility modifications and notifications of modifications. So I just wasn't able to get into their online and talk with anyone at DEEP to see if there's been problems with that. It's unusual for them to flag certain sections of the law, so maybe there are some paperwork issues. Again, I'm sure Suez can handle it, but apparently there's been some kind of issue.
Well,
and some of you may already know about that. I don't know.
That may not be Suez's problem.
Right.
Because it could end up being Department of Public Works having the drains going to the sound cleared so that the water can go to the sound, which would create other problems too. But that's
what's the infrastructure now along Commerce Street? Because there's a lot of older commercial buildings above where Gardella used to be, and where the rowing club is now. That hill next to Divine Brothers. I mean, now,
Moody's Lane.
Yeah, that whole area on that Divine Brothers side, Norwalk Electric Motor, that property's up for sale.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
If you go to heading south, there's the Eversource lot or a utility lot, and then next to that, there's about 500 feet or more of frontage. That property's up for sale. There's 2 or 3 commercial buildings in there, and that's all on the upper hill, and you know that's going to be all condominiums overlooking the river. How much density more? And we're not even anticipating the new stuff that qualifies with these zone changes that will come online. And, you know, and then once all these apartments start going up, how long is it going to be that Divine Brothers is not going to look for an exit strategy? I mean, that whole upper river beyond the bridge is going to be gentrified. And that's a fact. I mean, it's not something that we're speculating on, because all the zoning changes are geared towards it.
But
and,
that's
you know,
the goal, John, too.
Joe, how much can our systems take before they break?
Yeah, and John, that's a very valid point. And I think what Diane's raising, what we're all discussing right now, is that we have to continue to raise it as an issue so it's on everybody's radar.
Yeah, it's on radar, and yet people are just fluffing it off like it's a non-event. And all of a sudden, then it's just there. It's a fait accompli.
Well, other than raising it as an issue, I don't know what you do then. I really don't know.
Have a lot of those buildings become historical sites. That
would work.
But maybe the first and simple thing is just to be part of the public record of this discussion and ask the question.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
And see what the answer is that comes back.
Yeah.
Part of that, Jeff, is why I've done everything via email, so that there's a digital record of everything. Every time we've made a statement like that.
But this is something we want to be addressed in the public hearing process for the deep decision, Joe.
Correct.
It's just.
So I make a motion that we consider writing a comment based upon this discussion, and I don't know which of all of us fine people. I'm happy to help with wordsmithing, that we send it to and also I didn't know procedurally, John, since we are a creature of the Harbor Commission, how this would work. But in the past, this committee has sent out letters on their own as the Water Quality Committee, but we are attached, of course, as a subset of your commission. So
I mean, that's all well and good, and the more who weigh in, the merrier. And obviously now it gives it more credence. We will get, as the Harbor Commission, because of the 1,000-foot rule, bites at these apples, but those bites are little snippets on a finite piece of land on a finite property. And what is troubling, I think, to this committee most is that big picture, what can our infrastructure take? I know in the 90s, they put a moratorium on condominiums for a whole bunch of years. And now it's kind of flipped and we're into apartment mode for the last 10 plus years. Well, from an infrastructure standpoint, what is and that's where when they individually, each property, they make a plea, they make a presentation, they do a traffic study. Mm-hmm. What's the big picture? How much does the city know how much all its infrastructure can be utilized? What is the maximum? What is the cap? What are we geared toward? Where's the long-range plan for having water for whatever those numbers are, and sewage treatment for whatever those numbers are? And then at the same time, when you're doing these properties that may not be discharging somewhat, at least from a drainage standpoint, into the river, what are the mandates going to be to clean that up and change it? To capture whatever runoff is now hitting the river that it won't in the future. Those are the things that should be this committee, Harbor Commission, Shellfish Commission concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Diane, you started a motion, and in your phrasing, you said we wanted to consider doing this. Do we want to consider doing it, or do we want to do it?
My motion is, I'll make it brief. I make a motion that we pull together our comments before October 8th and send before October 8th comments from the Water Quality Committee related to the NIPD's permit. And I would like to be, and with discussion, I guess we need a second. We can decide who on this fine group of people want to do the wordsmithing. I'm hoping Joff is one of them. And I would like to be one of them. And then we'll send it to Joe for his final touches and of course, John, and then send it on.
Well, Shellfish, so, I think it could be a triad.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I accept friendly amendment.
Okay. All those in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, discussion, yeah.
Okay. That's it. Any opposition? Okay.
That was a good discussion.
Pardon?
That was a good discussion, I thought.
Thank you. Let's go on to number 2 because we're starting to run out of time here.
I know, I'll be faster. First of all, I wanted to clarify, I did not know that my email to our chairman would be verbatim placed in the public record. So I just want to clarify what I meant about disingenuous. I witnessed the Common Council Health and Safety Committee. They asked for the 2 water company representatives, Mr. Huth and then Mr. Elliott. Alan Huth is from 2nd Taxing District, or SNU, and then Michael Elliott represented 1st Taxing District. And both of them, of course, they had spoken together with each other before this meeting. They both echoed that they felt that the number of planned apartment buildings have really nothing to do with the, it won't affect and have nothing to do with the current mayor's water emergency. And the thing is, I know the folks on the Common Council are laymen. They are not, and nor would I expect them to be, water engineer experts. So there were no follow-up questions to that edict that the number of not only current new apartment buildings, but the future wouldn't, that they said that the number of added and expected to be added housing units have nothing to do with the current issue. And the thing is, it's not quite true, because of course, the more units you have, the more demand. Their point though, and it was a good point, they told the layman Common Council, and that is that due to stricter building codes, more efficient appliances, and they are getting money and investing their money into removing leaking pipes in the street and the roadway, that they have found so far a reduction in the demand. But the thing is also, this Common Council does not know the huge problem that is still happening in the well field. Now, in the 1st Taxing District, there is a well field that brought me to Norwalk. They are having some pollution issues and some, they're having a manganese issue, which has to do with health department levels, but they're also having a PFAS issue. And that well field was placed in the middle of an urban area. So at times there will be issues. That they're drawing, they said they need this well field in order to meet demand today, because their reservoirs in the 1st Taxing District are beginning to show the drought. The 2nd Taxing District has more area of reservoir, but they have no well fields yet. I happen to know, having once worked for the 1st Taxing District, that the beauty of the 1st Taxing District is they have deeper reservoirs. So they don't have to add the algae chemicals, because as the 2nd Taxing District does, because they have reservoirs that are less deep. But so the issue is that the Common Council was given the impression that all is well as far as our water supply. So I'll leave it there. I just wanted, it's not the end of the discussion. We're still in a water emergency, but it's just that when professionals give an impression to laymen, especially when they are officials. I think we need more discussion, and our Water Quality Committee could ask to speak before the City Council Health and Safety Committee in the future, or ask the First and Second Taxing District, or we could ask Steve Kleppen and others in the Code Enforcement Committees to explain this better, because it's not so simple and it's not just linear, you know? So I'll leave it at that.
Any comments?
No.
Okay, number 3, Diane, is oyster shell leachate.
Okay, now Oyster Shell Park, I witnessed the covering and the closure of Oyster Shell Park. And, you know, life gets busy, things happen, and we have brought this up before. I just wanted to know if we could consider taking this on as an issue in the coming months, where we get data on whether or not there are any monitoring wells in this at the base and other places of this old landfill. They were supposed to be installed. I'm not sure why they weren't, and I'm sure the Harbor Commission has some information they could share with us. I do know that Rick Reardon did, of course, claim there was 21,000 gallons per day going in. I don't know where he got that, and I did email him and ask him for that exacting amount. Some of you may know if that's true or not, but long story short is that I was hoping we could put this on as a discussion item in the near future when some of us have a little more time to take a look with DPW as to why there don't appear to be any monitoring wells currently. It is an old landfill.
Diane, we covered some of this at the last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I had talked to Aquaculture, and they monitor for his claim of the PCBs. And Aquaculture said there's no evidence of it. And they not only check the sediments, but they also check the shellfish. And the shellfish would be a great barometer as to whether or not the PCBs are still leaching. As to the question of the monitoring wells, we can ask that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4 that you requested.
I think that you all answered it. This really was just we have a lot of people from Shellfish and Harbor Management on our call today on our meeting. I sent the announcement of the right-of-way request. It has to do with Eversource, or was it just Walk Bridge? I don't know. Joff knows this, I'm sure.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I believe John Pinto spoke with perhaps the Planning Commission chair, and I think his understanding was that this easement transfer it wasn't significant, but I don't know other details, Diane. But I know John followed up on your suggestion.
Oh, great. Yeah, he's very thorough too, just like
but
you.
I don't know.
Okay, any other comments? Hey, Diane, the Alexis Chirichetti surprise.
Okay, I saved the best for last. I attended a river cleanup with Save the Sound and Skip the Plastic last weekend. And I came upon
River Watershed Association.
And I'm sorry, Norwalk River, of course, Jim, you were one of the main sponsors, you know, the NRWA. It was really great. And other groups, there were a lot of other groups involved. I've forgotten their names, but really good group. Although it was at mid-tide, so we didn't get as much stuff as we could have at low tide, but that's okay. Mainly, I happened upon Alexis, who was literally in the weeds, pulling out some plastic junk. And she, and I don't speak that often, but she announced to me that she has recently been made the Deputy Director of Planning and Zoning, taking Mike Rin's place. Now, I want to further explore that because it means, of course, that she will probably have more duties. And this leads into the discussion about NERWIC. I agree with Joff that our group, and I've always felt NRWA could assume the role of kind of chairing or running NERWIC. I always have felt that ever since I was on it from the beginning, way back when, in the 90s. However, with Alexis's elevation to Deputy Director of Planning and Zoning, she will be under Steve Kleppen. I think the good part about that is there might be a chance to have an environmental spin on more of the zoning. However, I have noticed the Conservation Commission has very limited review of things. They mostly stick to inland wetlands issues. I know that she's asked to do some other things. So I hope that she will have enough time. And in light of the fact that NERWIC has really not taken off as we were hoping, I think we might want to have a discussion with Alexis, and it may help us have more input and influence on the future of NERWIC. That's it.
Any comments? Steve or Jeff?
Do you mind if I say a few things here?
Go ahead.
When we talked about this over a year ago with Chris Malik, because he's in the watershed group at DEEP, right. And we talked about how we could reestablish or re-energize the watershed initiative, and he said one approach would be for the Harbor Commission to contact the representatives of the other towns and take an organizing role in doing it. But he wanted to check with Alexis first, because Alexis had been the last co-chair when the organization was functioning more. And then Alexis took the initiative to have a few meetings, and then, of course, we're in the virus situation now. So depending on what she may say, as a courtesy to talk with her, and of course nobody has time to do anything, other than what they're supposed to do, but conceivably the Harbor Commission could take initiative to reconvene meetings and organize meetings of this group. But it would certainly be good if there was a city staff person to do it too. And then the other comment that Diane made, and I think it's a good one, is to encourage and support a more active role by the Conservation Commission in Norwalk. Because the Conservation Commission, it functions as inland wetlands agency, but it also has the powers of the state authorized powers of a Conservation Commission, which has the ability to make recommendations and conduct studies on all matters concerning the land and water resources of the city. Not just the Inland Wetlands Authority is something different. That's limited to inland wetlands and water courses. But conservation could provide additional information, additional comments and recommendations that would be supportive. It doesn't supersede the Shellfish Commission's authority or the Harbor Commission's authority, but it could be supportive in a number of these initiatives having to do with water quality. So I think that's another thing, is that if there's someone who's now going to have function as the city's environmental officer, to encourage a more active role by the Conservation Commission acting as the Conservation Commission. But that's just my speech here, so I'll end with that.
Yes, I'm going to be looking into that, as I did when Alex Knott became mayor. There are different ways to get more environmental light on things by looking at structure. So yes, very much so.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Tom Clouster if he's willing to talk about changes coming to the health department.
Yeah.
Dick, what I can tell you is that 3 people in the health department are accepting the early retirement. I'm one of the 3. That means that next Friday will be our last day. So I'm not sure what the future holds. There's a possibility I may be coming back part-time. But as of now, my last day is going to be next Friday.
Well, we wish you luck.
My concern is that the lab over there is going to go away.
Wow.
Well, Pat DePietro was one of the other individuals that did accept the retirement, but my understanding is she may also be back to run the lab part-time, but that's in the works, and that hasn't been finalized.
You guys don't have a drop plan?
No.
No, just the police.
And fire.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
so Tom, in your absence, who do we contact?
We're working on that. It's going to be me until next week, and then I will let you know before I leave.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice work.
I'll
And
miss
we
you.
appreciate your work, Tom, for the city for all
Yeah.
these years.
Right.
That's really great public service.
Yeah, say it ain't so, Tom. Say it
Yeah.
ain't so.
Thank you.
Finally, reading of the minutes. They were attached to the thing I sent out. Hopefully you got a copy of it. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes?
Is those, is the, it was 120,000 gallons. Is that accurate?
Where are you?
From Oyster Shell Park? Diane, you
21,000.
alluded to it before?
21,000. 21,000. I don't know where that number came from, so I'll find out.
But that's
Thank you.
accurate? That,
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
21,000 gallons of what?
Leachate per day are generated and may be leaking into the Norwalk River. This is what I asked for clarification of Rick Reardon.
but even
And
if,
apparently
I mean,
Diane did too, as
if
well as
that was-
possibly Dick Harris.
if that was the amount, someone would see that, correct?
Yes,
All
Well,
right.
it's
and
leaching
it would
from all over.
show up in tests.
All right.
And not only is aquaculture doing the testing, but Dick Harris is doing testing too. He's trying to protect the shellfish industry. So, moving on. Any other comments or criticisms about or amendments to the minutes?
No.
No? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Can I have,
Excuse me, did we miss public participation? Item
Yes,
D
we
on the
did.
agenda?
is there anybody out there in the public that wants
There
to
is one,
participate?
there is one person.
Good.
If you'd like to speak, attendee in the public, please raise your hand electronically. Otherwise, we will continue with the meeting. No, I don't see a hand raised.
I
Okay,
think the
thank you.
press is listening.
Yeah, Nancy, it's Nancy Chapman, yeah. Okay. No, we don't have
Hand
anyone
raised?
that's willing to speak. We can continue. Thank you.
Okay. Next meeting is, I screwed up there. We're in October. Next meeting would be November.
November 5th.
November 5.
Right after the
Okay.
election.
Pardon?
Right after the election.
It should be interesting. Do you
Mr.
want to
Chair,
have it that day, or do you want to move it to another week? Any suggestions? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so that's election day, correct?
No, election's on Tuesday.
Oh, that's right, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So we're okay with November 5.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll still be counting the votes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a feeling they will. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Okay. Jim and then Diane. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Happy
And-
election
Aye.
day between now and then.
and
Bye, guys.
moderator, are you moderating the 7:15 shellfish?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Would you